Hello there. Tonight we take a slow walk through Stoicism, not as a lecture, but as a quiet habit for the mind. Think of a lamp in a tidy room. The lamp does not argue with the dark. It makes a small circle and lets the rest be what it is. That is the tone we will keep. We will talk about what belongs to you and what is not. We will ease the day into simple parts. We will practice a few calm sentences you can hold in your pocket when morning returns. The old Stoics spoke about nature, by which they meant the plain way things work. Weather changes. People have moods. Bodies tire and then mend. You cannot steer all of that. You can steer how you meet it. They also spoke about impressions and assent. An impression arrives, like a knock at the door. Assent is the part where you decide whether to let that visitor in. Between the knock and the decision, there is a breath. In that breath, freedom lives. We will listen for that breath tonight, and we will lengthen it. They kept 4 steady virtues. Wisdom for choosing well. Courage for doing the next honest thing. Justice for sharing the road with other people. Temperance for leaving a little space on the plate, in the calendar, and in the voice. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet measures that keep a day upright. We will touch each one softly, with small examples and no scolding. Where there is strain, we will loosen the knot. Where there is noise, we will choose the smaller room. Before sleep, the Stoics liked a gentle review, not a trial, a housekeeping. What did I do that matched the person I mean to be? What will I try again tomorrow, but a bit more kindly? What can I set down here so the night can hold it for me? That is where we are going. Breathe in as if you are opening a window. Breathe out as if you were setting a cup back on its shelf. The story will not hurry you. It will carry you. When your eyes grow heavy, let them. Stoicism can finish the room while you rest. The Stoics begin with a calm picture of a world that has a shape. Imagine a well-kept town at first light. Doors sit straight on their hinges. A baker folds dough without hurry. Water finds the channel that was cut for it last autumn and runs along as if it remembers the plan. Wagons arrive in order, then leave in order, and no one has to shout for the order to hold. For the Stoics, nature is not a wild tangle that no mind could walk through. It is a larger version of that steady town, a living whole with a pattern that repeats, where things prefer to fit rather than fight. Seeds become shoots, shoots become stalks, stalks become bread, and the bread feeds a hand that then puts a small piece back into the field as seed again. To live according to nature, in their quiet phrase, is to learn that pattern and consent to it, not by resigning from life, but by moving with its grain in the work you do today. They looked out at stars that rose where they should rise and set where they should set, at seasons that kept their old appointments, at bodies that healed in familiar ways when given rest, and they saw not a random list but a map. In their language, the word for that map was logos, a mind-like order that threads through everything, from the way a vine finds its trellis to the way a good argument finds its conclusion. That word has many uses in many books. We can keep the simplest one here. The world is intelligible. It is not entirely tame, yet it is not nonsense. You and I wake inside that intelligible world each morning with a certain set of tools. The ability to notice, the ability to reason, the ability to choose what to do with our hands and with our voice. Our work, say the Stoics, is to bring those tools into agreement with the pattern around us, the way a craftsman brings a chisel into agreement with the grain of wood. If you have ever watched a skilled person at a bench, someone who measures before cutting, who feels the piece, who listens to the tool, you have a picture of Stoic nature. The wood has a structure that asks to be respected. The worker has aims that ask to be clarified. When the two meet without haste, the result sits square and lasts. Change the material to a day. A day has structure. Morning takes light from darkness. Roles call for attention. Bodies have limits and needs. Other people carry their own projects and their own moods. The Stoic does not stand above this and demand that it be different. The Stoic stands inside it and asks what it would mean to do the next appropriate thing, here and now, with a clear head and a willing hand. They like the word appropriate. It sounds small, and that is why it is useful. Appropriateness is not a trumpet, it is a fit. A cup belongs on a stable surface and pours better with a steady wrist. A word belongs in a tone that matches the room. A promise belongs in a mouth that intends to keep it. In Greek, the term for such fitting action is one you could wear every day. Not heroics, not spectacle, just what suits a rational, social animal among other rational, social animals. Notice both sides of that description. You are rational, which means you can examine an impression before you sign your name to it. You are social, which means you are made for company and mutual aid, not as an afterthought, but as a basic design. Nature, on this view, is not only trees and weather. It is also the web of roles and duties by which a city breathes. From this follows a gentle thought the Stoics liked to practice. They called it oikiosis, a word about belonging. A small creature first recognizes itself and keeps itself from harm. Then the circle widens. Family, neighbors, the town, the travelers who pass through the town, and finally anyone capable of reason and exchange, which is to say anyone you might meet at a market or a harbor. To live according to nature is to let those circles widen without bitterness. The self you care for is not a wall, it is a doorframe. You keep it sound so that traffic through it remains good traffic. You care for those nearby not as ornaments to your story, but as parts of the same household. You care for strangers not because you have solved the world, but because you recognize your own tools in their hands, speech, hunger, hope, and feel the kinship of those tools. A world that has a pattern still has weather. The Stoics do not pretend otherwise. There are storms that flatten a field whether the farmer is ready or not. There are illnesses that ignore calendars. There are sudden losses that change the shape of a room in one afternoon. Nature includes those as well. The pattern is larger than your plans. What, then, is your place? The answer they give is both modest and liberating. You are not the manager of weather. You are the steward of your own ascent. The part of the pattern that is up to you is what you do with impressions when they arrive, what you choose to say, what you decide to pursue, what you refuse to do even under pressure, and how you carry success so that it does not carry you. The part that is not up to you includes whether the phone rings, whether the train is late, whether a rumor starts, whether other minds stand still or move. Consent to that division, and the world gets lighter in your hands. To make it concrete, take a very ordinary morning. The light through the curtain says it is time to stand. The body says it would like a few more minutes. Nature is not insulted by either message. You attend to the body, water, breath, a small stretch, and then to the day, list, coffee, a glance at the clock. Outside, rain decides the sound of the street. On the way to your work, a delay decides the rhythm of your feet. You may choose irritation, which is a form of argument with what does not listen, or you may choose to use the delay for a brief inventory. What is actually mine here? My judgment about the delay, my manner toward the others waiting, my next step when the door opens. What is not mine? The door, the schedule, the rain. Nature is teaching without speeches. The lesson is simple. Spend yourself where your spending changes something good. Save yourself where it does not. Because this view is calm, it is often accused of being cold. The Stoics answer by drawing a small map on the table. In one corner, they place things you might like to have: health, income, company, a reputation for honesty. In another corner, they place their opposites: illness, loss, loneliness, slander. They call the whole set indifference. Not because they feel nothing about them, but because these goods and bads do not decide whether a human life is excellent. What decides that is the steady use of your rational and social nature, wisdom in choice, courage in difficulty, justice in dealings with others, temperance in appetites and aims. You may prefer health to illness and work for it sensibly. You may prefer income to poverty and work for it honestly. But if you must choose, you do not trade your character for the prize. Nature, they say, has equipped you to be decent in any weather. That equipment is your true wealth. Try the thought for a day. A message arrives that is sharper than it needed to be. Notice the first impression, heat in the chest, a story that begins to write itself about motives and alliances. Leave the story in the drawer for now. Ask a simple question. What would be an action that fits a rational, social creature at a bench in a shared workshop? Perhaps it is a short reply that keeps the work moving. Perhaps it is a request for a calmer time to talk. Perhaps it is silence and a change of task until the air clears. Nature here is not a judge in a robe. It is the arrangement of tools and goals in the shop. A good day is one in which tools are used for their purpose without breaking and goals are pursued without trampling the hands next to yours. They also love the image of roles. You have heard the line that life is like a play in which you do not get to choose the part, only how well you perform it. It sounds stern until you notice what it gives you. It gives you back your agency inside the given. You may be guest or host, manager or apprentice, patient or nurse, driver or pedestrian, parent or child, citizen or traveler. The part changes across the hours. The part changes across the years. Nature, as the Stoics teach it, asks only for this. Play the present part with attention and with grace. Do not stomp when the scene changes. Do not steal lines from the next actor. Do not forget to leave the stage tidy for the scene that follows. The world is not waiting for your speech. It is waiting for your fit. A question remains, and they do not hide it. If the world is ordered, is my choice real? Their answer is practical. Choice is the way order moves through you. Fate, for them, is not a chain that drags. It is the name for the way causes line up and produce their natural effects. Your assent is one of those causes. Your refusal is one of those causes. Your habit of pausing before you answer is one of those causes. When you withhold assent from a harsh impression, you are not stepping outside nature. You are exercising the very faculty nature gave you to keep the machine from grinding itself. When you choose to return a tool to its place at the end of the day, you are not defying the world. You are completing the world's intention for a rational creature in a room he shares with others. Bring the thought back to the scale of a single breath and a single bed. You are lying down at the end of a long set of scenes. Some went the way you hoped, some did not. The Stoic practice here is simple housekeeping. That belongs to me. That does not. That was chosen. That was given. That I can improve tomorrow. That I can accept tonight. Nature is not only the sky and the sea. It is also the way a mind comes to rest when it has separated what is its own from what is not. Make 3 small lines on the day. Where did I act with the virtues I mean to keep? Where did I step off the path, and how will I step back on without scolding? What can I set down now so the night can hold it for me and return it in the morning with less noise? If you keep this light on your table, nature as a pattern, yourself as a part, action as a fit, you will find that many knots loosen themselves. You do not have to win every argument because the weather does not consult your calendar. You do not have to rehearse every fear because the road will not take the steps you take before you take them. You do not have to decorate every success because the work itself is already the right ornament for a day well used. Your consent, your refusal, your attention, your care for the web of roles around you. These are how you live according to nature without drama. The field outside will grow in its season. The tools inside will last if you use them as they were meant to be used. The mind will rest when it has done what is proper to it and allowed the rest to be the rest. Before we close this chapter, take one more slow look at the town at first light. The baker sets the first loaf on the rack. A cart passes without rattling. A door opens for a guest and closes again with a soft, clean sound. The lamp on the counter makes its small circle and leaves the corners to be corners. This is all the Stoics ask of you. Be the lamp, not the thunder. Know your circle. Keep it steady. Let the rest be the rest. Tomorrow we will speak about the division that protects your peace, the few things that are up to you, and the many things that are not. and we will practice the small breath that sits between an impression and your ascent. For now, let nature keep her watch. Let the room be a room. Let sleep be the fitting act for this hour. The old Stoic teachers begin this chapter with a very small table and a very small ledger. On the left they write, in a hand that does not hurry, what is up to you? Your judgments, your choices, your deliberate actions, your willingness to practice a virtue, your refusal to practice a vice. On the right they write, without drama, what is not up to you? The weather, other people's moods, the traffic light, the price of grain, the rumors someone else began, the exact behavior of a body that sometimes cooperates and sometimes does not. They do not argue with the second column. They do not despise it. They only refuse to spend a life in a quarrel that cannot be won. The left column is where your real freedom lives. The right column is where your patience, your humor, and your sense of proportion are asked to stand their post. Think of a door and a corridor. Your part is the door, the fit of the hinge, the decision to open, the decision to close, the courtesy with which you do both. The corridor is the world, feet that may pause or pass without greeting, noises you did not plan, drafts that arrive when they please. If you make the corridor your project, you will always be late for your own work. If you make the door your project, the room behind you becomes a calmer place. And sometimes the corridor becomes a little calmer for having met a steady door. What is up to me is the hinge you oil in the morning, the latch you replace when it sticks, the choice to answer a knock with a voice that makes a guest want to behave well. A simple morning shows the division clearly. You wake to a message that was not kind. The throat tightens. The first story the mind writes is loud and confident and not yet generous. Before you send a reply, you rehearse the Stoic sentence. The words in that message are not mine. The meaning I attach to them is mine. The tone I choose now is mine. The aim of my answer is mine. Even if the hand that wrote to you meant harm, your hand can refrain from multiplying it. You might write a short, factual line that keeps the work moving. You might ask for a moment later in the day when tempers will not spin themselves so fast. You might set the matter aside until your breath is slow enough to carry the weight without dropping it. None of these moves control the corridor. Each of them controls the door. The Stoics do not ask you to be made of stone. Preference is allowed. You may prefer health to illness, sufficiency to scarcity, friendship to loneliness, a clean name to a stained one. You may work intelligently for each preference. The caution is simple. Never pay for these with the coin you cannot afford to spend, your character. A day arrives when health does not come when called, or when the effort to be thought well of would require an untruth, or when the quickest way to be comfortable would require you to look away from someone else's need. In those hours, the ledger keeps you from cheating yourself. You do not hand over wisdom for applause. You do not trade justice for convenience. You do not sell courage for a quiet afternoon. The price is too high, and the purchase spoils in the mouth the moment it is swallowed. There is a small practice that protects this division, and it lives comfortably in the first 5 minutes of a day. Sit, or stand, and anticipate like a clerk preparing for customers. Someone will be late. Someone will be sharp. Something mechanical will fail. Something you send will be misunderstood. You do not grimace. You set your counters the way a baker sets his trays. Here is patience. Here is clarity. Here is a second attempt written more plainly. Here is the willingness to carry a task yourself if that is the easiest way to stop a corner of the room from coming apart. The Stoics called this light rehearsal a premeditation of troubles, not an invitation to gloom, only an agreement with the likely rhythm of human rooms. When trouble arrives, it does not feel like an ambush. It feels like a customer whose name you learned yesterday. Another small practice sits whenever an appointment waits and the world chooses delay. You are in a line. You are in a lobby. You are on a platform listening to the rails hum. The corridor is not yours. The door is. So you take inventory. What belongs to me just now? The tilt of my shoulders. The story I am telling myself about why this is happening. The look I give to the person next to me. who is also being taught patience for free. The next useful action when the window opens. You borrow a Stoic image and make it your own. Every situation has a handle, and some handles tear the hand while others let you lift the weight without blood. Choose the handle that fits a rational, social creature. A question asked gently, a place yielded, a plan adjusted without drama, a silence kept until silence stops making things worse. There is a third practice you can use in the middle of a task when the air has become crowded with opinions that are not yours. You are writing a report, or teaching a lesson, or cleaning a room everyone uses. Opinions arrive like weather. It is not worth doing. It is worth more than it is. It will not be seen. It will be mocked. It will be praised. It will be ignored. The Stoic turns back to the hinge and the latch. Is the work in front of me the appropriate work for my role today? Am I doing it with the steady virtues? Clear thought, fair dealing, courage to continue, temperance in pace and scope. Finish the step. Check the step. Put the tool down for the next hand in a way that spares that hand a few seconds of searching. If the work is seen, let it be seen. If it is not, let it not be. Nature is still kept by the keeping of your part. Notice how this division frees the heart from a particular exhaustion. Much misery is brewed by trying to control the impressions that live in other minds. A Stoic does not withdraw from reputation entirely. A city functions partly because we care what our names mean to each other. But the Stoic never spends the coin of peace on a task that cannot be completed. You can choose to be honest. You cannot force another person to believe you. You can choose to be fair. You cannot force another person to call it fair. You can choose a tone that gives good information. You cannot make all ears receive it as good information. The ledger protects you from the infinite labor of polishing mirrors that other people are holding in their hands. The body belongs partly to each column, and this is one of the gentlest teachings in the school. You do not own every process that unfolds under your skin. You can sleep at a good hour, feed yourself with simple food, move the muscles, visit a physician when wisdom says to visit one, and keep your appointments with sunlight and air. You cannot command the cell, or the joint, or the neuron, or the sudden cough. When the body declines an invitation, the Stoic does not scold it. He writes the decline in the right-hand column, adjusts the plan in the left-hand column, and looks for an appropriate act that does not require disobedience from tissues that will not obey. There are days when rest is the courageous act, days when asking for help is the just act, days when temperance says, enough for now. By evening, the ledger has done its work quietly. You can close it with a short housekeeping that neither flatters nor wounds. Where today did I act where action was mine? Where did I try to use other people's hands as if they were my hands? Where did I refuse to spend patience because speed looked more glamorous? Where did I keep my word even when it had become expensive? Where did I change my mind because a better reason arrived? None of this is a trial. It is a craftsman's inspection of a bench at dusk. Tools returned, shavings brushed away, notes made for the morning. The corridor is still the corridor. The door is ready to be a door again. One more image to end the chapter, because images are easier to carry than rules. Imagine a small boat in a harbor that is usually kind and sometimes not. You do not order the wind. You trim a sail. You do not command the tide. You choose when to leave and when to wait. You do not erase the rocks. You consult the chart and steer to give them the respect they are owed. When a wave rises that you did not ask for, you ride its back and keep your hands on the lines. There is a kind of joy in that competence, a satisfaction that does not depend on the crowd on the pier. This is what the Stoics promise. Not a world that stops being a world, but a self that stops being its own worst weather. What is up to you grows larger as you practice it, not because the corridor shrinks, but because the door grows wise. As you settle now, let the two columns simplify the rest of the night. In the first column, place your breath, your willingness to soften a thought before it hardens, your choice to let the body feel safe in this bed. In the second column, place the hour that will ring in the morning the messages that may arrive while you sleep, the decisions that belong to other hands. You are not abandoning your life. You are arranging it so that life can be carried without spilling. In the next chapter, we will walk more slowly through the space between a knock and the opening of the door, the moment when an impression asks for your assent and you are still free to answer wisely. For now, the hinge is oiled, the latch is set, the room is dark, and the corridor, as always, will keep its own watch. An impression arrives the way weather arrives, without asking your schedule, without knocking first. A tone in someone's voice, a number on a screen, a memory brushing past. Each lands on the mind like a ripple on water. The Stoics never deny the first ripple. They simply refuse to surrender the whole lake to it. Between the arrival and your agreement, there is a small space, and in that small space you are free. Tonight we practice lengthening that space until it feels as steady as a corridor light left on at night. Begin with naming. An impression is not a verdict. It is only a report. Say softly, "This is an appearance. The rest is up to me." A hurried story may try to attach itself. "He meant to slight me. This meeting will collapse. I always fail at this hour." Let the story stand outside like a visitor whose name you have not yet learned. The first kindness you can offer yourself is delay. Postpone assent the way a careful clerk postpones stamping a document until the details are checked. A breath or two. A sip of water. The paper is still on the counter. No harm has been done. Next, examine the seal. Ask 3 small questions that fit in one long exhale. What exactly happened? Free of my adjectives. Is any part of this up to me? Which virtue would improve the next minute? Clarity, courage, fairness, or restraint? Notice how these questions shift the light from the corridor to the door. You are no longer arguing with weather. You are setting your hinge and latch. The tone of your interior becomes less like a drum and more like a workbench with tools laid out in reach. Now choose the handle. Every situation has more than one. One handle tears the hand. Panic, pride, the old script that wants to rehearse itself. Another handle lets the weight be lifted without blood. Facts first, small next step, decent tone. Picture a heavy trunk with 2 grips. One is slick and hot, the other wrapped and cool. The trunk is the same. Your hand is the same. The choice keeps your strength for work instead of letting it escape into the floorboards. Turn toward the handle that suits a rational, social creature sharing a room with other rational, social creatures. Practice the tiny sentence that slows assent. Not yet. You see a message. You feel the pulse leap. You want to answer in the first color that rises. Not yet. Draft, do not send. Read aloud, not silently. Replace the adjective with the fact. If it still seems wise after 2 minutes and 1 breath, send. If not, you have purchased a small piece at a very fair price. This is not coldness, it is stewardship. You are guarding the gate so the town inside can keep working. When impressions are pleasant, the same rule applies. Praise arrives, a door opens, an invitation flatters the part that likes to be flattered. Not yet. Enjoy the warmth without signing away the morning. Add the Stoic reserve clause. Fate permitting, or, in plain words, if nothing prevents. Accept, then keep your hands on the tiller. Joy that has been examined keeps better. It spoils less quickly in the sun. Some impressions borrow size from closeness. The Stoics answer with distance that does not insult the world. Step back in mind. The view from above turns a room into a street into a quarter into a city under weather that belongs to no one. Your worry becomes a small marker on a map where 1,000 other markers are busy doing their little duties. From that height, you can still care. You simply stop acting as if your corner is the whole earth. Ascent grows calmer when the map grows wider. Other impressions borrow force from time. Here the tool is postponement with purpose. Tell the mind, we will think about this in the morning, and write 1 line so the morning will know what you meant. Most alarms shrink overnight. Those that deserve your strength will meet you again with cleaner edges and less theater. The Stoics trusted sleep as part of reason's workshop. The clerk locks the drawer. The shop does not disappear. It waits in order for daylight. There are days when the body itself is the impression, a quickened heart, a tight jaw, an ache that colors the hour. Treat the body as a colleague, not an enemy. Ask what care is up to you: water, food, movement, medicine, rest, and give it without sarcasm. Then return to the ledger. The sensation is not a verdict about your character. It is a report from tissue. You can let it be true without letting it rule. Assent here means, I hear you, and I will steer gently while you settle. Finally, store the practice in a pocket formula you can carry anywhere. Appearance: pause, examine, choose, act small. Or, if you prefer a calmer rhythm, see, breathe, sort, select, step. Each word is a bead. You can move them under your thumb in a line at a bus stop or in a bed when the ceiling feels busy. The aim is not to banish feeling. It is to keep feeling from forging your signature in a hurry. As you settle now, let one impression arrive, perhaps the day's last conversation, or a task unfinished, or a kindness received. Name it without embroidery. Give it the room of one full breath. Ask your 3 questions in a low voice. Choose the handle that would make you proud tomorrow. Set the smallest next step on a mental shelf where you will find it in the morning. Then withdraw assent from every other story that wants to speak tonight. You can tell them, not yet. The door is set. The hinge is quiet. The corridor can take care of itself until dawn. When the Stoics spoke of virtue, they did not imagine medals or speeches. They meant 4 steady skills that keep a day upright: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Think of a square table that does not wobble because each leg bears its share. If one leg is missing, the tea spills no matter how fine the china. Wisdom keeps the surface level: clear seeing, sound judgment, good timing. Courage holds weight when a corner of the day grows heavy and threatens to tilt. Justice remembers that the table is for more than one cup. It is for the whole room. Temperance keeps the spread from crowding the edges. It leaves space so nothing has to be knocked to make room for something else. The Stoics call these virtues not because they are dramatic, but because they are reliable. You practice them the way you practice tying a knot or setting a lamp wick. Small movements done correctly, repeated until the hands no longer argue. Wisdom, in their calm sense, is not cleverness. It is right appraisal leading to a right fit between what is and what you do next. A wise hour begins by naming facts without decoration, asks what is truly up to you, and chooses the smallest action that improves the situation without creating a new problem. Wisdom enjoys evidence, but it is not paralyzed by the lack of perfect certainty. It proceeds modestly and corrects itself without shame. You can feel wisdom at work when a sentence shortens instead of lengthens, when a plan drops the flourish and keeps the hinge, when you say, "This will do for now," and mean it. In practice, it sounds like, that email does not require an essay, only a date. This mistake wants an apology, not a defense. That temptation looks large because I am tired, so the wisest step is water, a walk, and the task in the morning. Wisdom leaves drama outside the door and invites proportion to sit where drama wanted to sit. Courage, for the Stoics, is not a shout. It is steadiness in the presence of a cost. There is the courage to begin, lifting a hand to the first tool when the whole task looks like a wall. The courage to continue, keeping pace when novelty fades and the middle looks dull, and the courage to refuse, saying no to a request that would buy comfort by selling character. You can practice courage in very quiet rooms. Answer the difficult note without heat. Ask the fair question when a meeting is drifting toward unfairness. Put your name to the line you know to be true even if the room prefers a softer lie. Courage often shows itself in the body as a deliberate relaxation of the jaw, a breath released all the way out, a choice to plant the feet, and let the wave pass through rather than bracing hard and breaking. The Stoics teach that fear shrinks when looked at in inventory form. What exactly is the cost? Paid when? By whom? And to what end? Once named, the cost is rarely as infinite as the first feeling promised. Justice widens the circle. It is the virtue that remembers the city and refuses to treat other people as furniture. In a Stoic household, justice is not an abstract word. It is the habit of fair weights and honest measures. You keep your appointments because other calendars hang on yours. You pay your invoices on time because another shop's light depends on that current. You speak of absent people as if they were standing in the doorway because sooner or later they will be. In crowds, justice is patience with the slow, space for the new, and a refusal to profit by confusion. In private, it is the steady correction of the cramped story that always makes you the center. The just person uses the phrase "as far as it depends on me," not to escape, but to serve. As far as it depends on me, let this go smoothly. As far as it depends on me, let the quiet person be heard. As far as it depends on me, let the injury stop here and not continue its journey through my hands. Temperance gives every other virtue room to breathe. It is not meagerness, it is measuredness. The art of taking enough and stopping before more begins to undo what enough just did. Temperance pours one cup, eats from one plate, keeps one window open, chooses one task to finish before sampling three. It edits sentences, trims calendars, protects sleep as a public good because tired people are noisier in all the wrong ways. The Stoics suggest small gates through which appetite must pass. Pause. Name. Proportion. Pause. Am I moving from hunger or habit? Name. What do I actually want from this screen, this snack, this scroll? Proportion. How much would rightly serve the day and how much would serve restlessness pretending to be need? Temperance is not a sighing refusal. It is the satisfaction of a room arranged so that nothing has to be stepped over to reach the bed. Each virtue, by itself, leans back toward the others. Wisdom without courage drafts plans and never sends them. Courage without wisdom kicks doors that were never locked. Justice without temperance burns bright and then burns out, leaving the room no kinder. Temperance without justice turns neatness into indifference and calls it peace. Practice them together, and they braid into something stronger than any strand alone. A wise, courageous sentence said in a just tone, limited to what helps. This is a thread you can pull through the whole day. It will not always be admired. It will almost always be useful. You can make the virtues livable by binding each to a small, repeatable act. For wisdom, a morning fact list before you add a single adjective. For courage, one hard thing scheduled early, done without posturing, marked complete without fanfare. For justice, a promise kept that no one would have blamed you for delaying, plus one short note of thanks to a person whose work is usually invisible. For temperance, a boundary drawn in advance that saves you from deciding in the heat. 1 hour for messages, then the phone goes away. One portion on the plate, then the kitchen rests. One episode, then lamp off. These are not vows carved in stone. They are pegs in a wall. You hang the day on them, so the wind cannot throw the day onto the floor. At night, the four virtues become the kindest of auditors. No courtroom, just a clear desk and a pencil. Where did I see clearly and fit my action to the facts? Where did I stand steady when a cost presented itself? Where did I widen the circle when the moment tried to shrink it? Where did I stop at enough and let the rest wait? If you miss one, you do not bruise yourself with names. You note the miss, plan the small correction, and leave the plan in the drawer for morning. The Stoics say excellence is a practice, not a possession. You wear it for a few hours at a time, mend it where it frays, and put it back on tomorrow. If you are listening in the dim light with the room already choosing sleep, let the four words sit in the corners like very quiet guardians. Wisdom at the desk where lists are kept, reminding you to label the day with facts and nothing harsher. Courage at the door, hand on the latch, promising to open when it is time and to close when it is good for the house. Justice in the hallway, arranging shoes so no one trips in the morning and setting a cup where another hand can find it. Temperance by the lamp, turning the wick down until the flame is small and kind. Breathe in as if you are setting the table, so breakfast will be easy. Breathe out as if you are covering the bread so it does not dry. The square does not wobble. The room does not argue. What needed doing has been done for this hour. The rest belongs to the night. The Stoics liked a simple theater image because it makes duty feel human. You do not choose the play, they say, and you do not always choose the scene. You are handed a mask and a few props, and a voice off stage says, "Now." What you do choose is how cleanly you speak the line that belongs to you, how generously you leave space for the others to speak theirs, and how gracefully you exit when the scene is finished. The point is not applause. The point is a performance that fits the play. In quiet hours, this becomes a soft question you can ask anywhere. Given this room and these people, what is the appropriate act for me, here and now? Roles come in layers, and peace grows where you respect their order. There is the widest role first, a rational, social creature in the common city of humankind. Under that, the roles that arrive by relationship, child or parent, partner or friend, neighbor, citizen. Under those, the roles that arrive by craft and hour, porter, clerk, nurse, driver, teacher, apprentice, guest, host, bystander. Some roles change with the scene. You are a pedestrian until a hand goes up at a crosswalk, and you become a driver with a duty to wait. You are a manager until your child coughs in the night, and the whole calendar yields to a different rank of care. Stoic duty is not a rigid schedule. It is a steady willingness to wear the right hat for the present weather and to take it off when the sky clears. Because life is crowded, roles sometimes jostle. The Stoic way to sort them is calm and practical. Begin with the highest claim. Do no harm to the common good, and let the rest arrange themselves beneath it. If a professional duty and a human duty pull in opposite directions, choose the human duty and look your profession in the eye with a clean explanation. If two human duties collide, choose the one nearest by promise or by need. Keep a note for the other and return to it when you can, without guilt theater. This is the sense of Marcus Aurelius's hive image. What helps the whole helps the part, and what injures the whole injures your small corner in time. The measure is not drama. The measure is contribution. You can turn role ethics into a very ordinary morning tool. Before the house is noisy, ask 3 guiding questions in a single breath. What is the scene? Who else is on stage? What is my honest next line? If the scene is a meeting, your role might be listener first, clarifier second, decision maker last. If the scene is a cue, your role is neighbor, with duties of patience, order, and small kindnesses that keep the line aligned. If the scene is a sick room, your role is presence. Few words, warm water, the quiet competence of someone who knows where the lamp switch is. Played this way, duty stops sounding like iron and starts sounding like fit. Appropriate action, kathekon in their language, sounds modest because it is. It is the kind of deed that helps a room keep working. You arrive on time because other calendars hang from yours. You return tools to their hook because an unseen hand will reach for them later. You phrase requests so that a tired ear can carry them without dropping anything else. You say thank you into the quiet where most work actually happens. None of this wins statues. All of this keeps the city from grinding itself into noise. The Stoics thought excellence was mostly made of such fittings: a hinge that does not squeak, a latch that closes without force, a cup that pours without dribbling on the table. Sometimes the role is to correct, and then the manner matters as much as the content. Justice asks for fair weights and honest measures. Temperance asks for a tone that can be received. Wisdom asks for timing that does not waste the day. Courage asks you to speak anyway. You can practice this with one sentence that wears all 4 virtues at once. Clear fact first, impact next, request last, no sarcasm. When the correction is made, you hand the scene back to the group without lingering for thanks. A role done well is its own applause. Waiting for more is how a part swells until the play bends around it and begins to break. Roles end. A child grows. A post passes to another name on the door. An illness redraws the borders of energy. A city changes its needs. The Stoic does not cling to an old uniform out of vanity. He folds it. He places it where the next pair of hands can find it. And he learns the dignity of the new part without muttering that the last part was grander. Epictetus smiles at this point and reminds you that dying is the final costume change. You hand back the mask, you hand back the props, and you thank the manager for the use of the stage. Practiced earlier in small resignations, the big one becomes simpler, not easy, but simpler. Because roles can swell, guard against overreach. Ask yourself in a crowded conversation, am I speaking the line written for me? Or am I stealing the other actor's line because I like the sound of my voice? Ask yourself at dusk, did I carry someone else's task because love required it? Or because control felt good? Ask yourself when praised, did I accept what belonged to my part? Or did I let the light bleed onto me from work the crew did while I slept? None of these questions is a scolding. They are housekeeping that keeps walls from bowing and keeps a day from becoming a set built for vanity instead of service. There is also the role you play for yourself in private, a tutor, not a tyrant. The Stoics recommend a gentle evening audit that does not bruise. Where did I play my part cleanly? Where did I step on lines? Where did I leave the stage messy? Where will I set a small reminder for tomorrow so the same corner does not catch my foot again? 3 lines in a notebook, no speeches. In the morning you will find the notes, and you will dress accordingly, like a craftsperson who lays out tools the night before, so the first hour belongs to work, not searching. If you need pictures, carry 2. First, the hand and the body. A hand resents nothing when it closes around a handle the body needs it to lift. It does not demand a song. It takes the pressure suited to a hand and gives the rest to the arm and shoulder. Second, the bee and the hive. A bee keeps its own flight exact and its own cell clean, not because a statue waits, but because sweetness is a shared labor that ruins easily when anyone chooses fame over function. These images are old because they still work when sleep is close and sentences need to be short. As you settle now, imagine laying today's mask on a hook by the door. The room will keep its shape without you for the hours of night. That is one of the kindnesses of a world with many actors. Your present role is simpler, a body at rest, a breath that enters and leaves without supervision, a mind that is allowed to dim like a small lamp at the end of a play. Tomorrow the stage manager will hand you a part again, and you will answer, present, and you will speak your line cleanly, and you will make room for the next person to speak theirs. For this hour your duty is sleep, and even sleep can be done with grace. The Stoics begin the morning with a rehearsal so light it barely leaves a mark. It is a way of smoothing the grain before the saw touches wood. Sit, or stand at a window. Let the room be ordinary. Name the day you expect, not as an order, but as a guest list. There will be weather that forgets your plans. There will be a voice rougher than it needed to be. There will be a small machine that declines to work just when you ask. There will be errands that multiply and one that refuses to end. None of this is catastrophe. It is traffic. You are not here to pave the whole city. You are here to choose your lane and travel it without scaring anyone. As you picture these small frictions, pair each with a sentence you can carry in a pocket. If someone is sharp, I will answer with facts and a civil tone. If a cue forms, I will lend it patience and keep the line aligned. If the tool fails, I will try the next one without blaming the tool. If the plan bends, I will fit it to the new shape and save the scolding for ideas that deserve it. This is not pessimism. It is hospitality for the ordinary guests of a human day. When they arrive, you will recognize them. They will seem smaller because you have already set a chair. The rehearsal continues with the body, because the body will have opinions. A pulse runs faster than the room requires. The shoulder remembers yesterday's box. The stomach wants a simpler hour than the schedule promises. Treat these impressions as reports from honest colleagues. Water first. Breath that reaches the floor. Food that behaves. A stretch that makes the afternoon kinder. You cannot command every cell, but you can give the body the conditions under which it works best and ask it, gently, to meet you halfway. Now picture the faces you may meet. Not their flaws, their roles. A driver who has his own list. A clerk who has answered the same question all morning. A partner whose night was shorter than yours. People do not exist to test your philosophy. They exist to do their lives. Put yourself among them as a citizen, not a critic. The rehearsal line here is simple and sturdy. I will try to be good company for the work we share. If I must correct, I will do it without theater. If I must refuse, I will do it without contempt. If I must wait, I will do it as if waiting were part of the job, because it is. Invite luck to the table with a condition attached. The Stoics called it the reserve clause. I will do this if nothing prevents. I will meet at noon if nothing prevents. I will finish the draft today if nothing prevents. The clause does not weaken resolve, it frees it. You stop spending heat on the weather and keep it for the steering. When prevention occurs, you already have a sentence ready. The door closed. I will choose the next door. The train stopped. I will choose the next useful act that fits being here. Practice the light art of imagining loss, not to bruise the heart, but to polish gratitude. Look at a cup as if it might someday leave your shelf. Use it well today. Look at a view as if cloud or scaffolding could borrow it next week. See it well today. Look at a hand you love as if time were the owner and you the careful renter. Hold it well today. This is the soft version of negative visualization. You are not rehearsing grief. You are rescuing value from habit and letting enough feel like enough while it is still in the room. Add 1 minute for the view from above, the map that loosens knots. Lift the street to a district, the district to a city, the city to a coast, the coast to a blue curve that knows nothing of your calendar. From that height your tasks do not disappear, they right-size themselves. Your annoyance becomes a pin you can move with 2 fingers. Your pride becomes a label you can peel off if it begins to cover the instructions. When you return to your desk, the pen you pick up will feel like the right scale again. Close the rehearsal with a very small plan for tone. The world will try to loan you its urgency. You can decide which loans to accept. Speak a little slower than the room. Choose verbs that do work rather than adjectives that do harm. Answer the first time you are asked, if you can, so asking does not turn into performance. Let silence be a tool, not a threat. These choices do not cost you speed. They save it. The way a clean workbench saves minutes you used to spend searching for a missing tool. During the day, keep one anchor sentence ready for the moment between impression and assent. Not yet. You can say it under your breath without anyone noticing. Between the email and the answer, not yet. Between the headline and the fear, not yet. Between the invitation and the agreement, not yet. This pause is not a stall. It is the space where wisdom chooses the handle that will not tear your hand. 2 breaths later, decide. The decision will fit better because it was made by the person you mean to be and not by the feeling that arrived unannounced. Set a small inventory to meet failure kindly, because some part of today will go poorly. When it does, ask 3 questions that restore scale. What exactly failed? What part was mine? What part is a lesson I can carry without bitterness? Then perform the repair that suits your role. Apologize cleanly. Adjust the process so the corner that caught you does not catch the next person. Put the tool back where a stranger would look for it first. Then leave the scene without building a sculpture out of your mistake and calling it identity. When evening comes, let the morning rehearsal flow into the night review like 2 pages of the same notebook. You pictured friction, you met it, you answered with the virtues as best you could. You pictured loss, you noticed value while it was still here. You pictured people as partners, you treated them as partners even when they were tired and forgot their lines. You spoke the reserve clause. You were spared the torment of arguing with the tide. You paused. You chose. You acted small. That is a day in the Stoic meter. If sleep is close now, lay the next morning out on the chair the way you would lay out clothes for a child. A sentence for patience. A sentence for courage. A sentence for fairness. A sentence for enough. A glass waiting by the sink. Shoes where the hand will find them in the dark. Let the rehearsal continue without you. The city will keep breathing. The river will keep its clock. The lamp can lower its flame. Your present part is rest, and rest is the best rehearsal of all, because the mind that sleeps is the worker who shows up ready. The Stoics keep a quiet gym in the middle of the day. It has no sign over the door and no music inside. It is simply the place where things do not go as planned, and where you can decide that this is not a breakdown, but a training hour. The work is modest. Something resists. You name it without drama. You ask which virtue would be strengthened by lifting this weight. You choose a small movement that fits the scene, and you repeat that movement until the hour lets you pass. Begin with a map that is only 2 squares wide. In the first square right, the aim. In the second square right, the obstruction. The aim might be to finish a page, to keep an appointment, to give a fair answer, to carry patients from breakfast to dusk. The obstruction might be a late train, a sharp voice, a sudden error, a tired body. Put a finger on the second square and ask the guiding question. What fair skill does this give me a chance to practice? If the train is late, the practice is patience joined to prudence. If the voice is sharp, the practice is clarity without heat. If the error is yours, the practice is repair without theater. If the body is tired, the practice is temperate pacing and clean stops. The impediment becomes the material. The room is now a gym, and you have a reasonable exercise to do. This is not a trick of words. It is a change of posture. An obstacle felt as insult makes the shoulders rise and the jaw lock. The same obstacle seen as a drill lowers the shoulders and returns breath to its work. You are not pretending the wall is a door. You are choosing the useful action that the wall makes possible. If a path is blocked, scouting becomes the action. If a person is difficult, listening becomes the action. If a device fails, simplicity becomes the action. The hour is no longer wasted while waiting for ideal weather. It is used by practicing the exact stance that difficult weather asks for. Make the practice small enough to be repeatable. A rough message arrives. The untrained move is to answer in the color of the feeling. The exercise is to write one factual sentence, and only one, that moves the work forward, then to stop and read it aloud, and to send it only if it still looks like something you would sign tomorrow. A deadline slips. The untrained move is to tell a story about identity. I always fail at this. The exercise is to cut the task in half, to choose the half that other hands depend on first, to deliver that half in a clear envelope, and to schedule the second half without apology and without a speech. A meeting heats up. The untrained move is to push louder. The exercise is to state the shared aim, to name one point of agreement, to park one disagreement for a calmer hour, and to ask the next small question that gets the room back to work. Sometimes the obstacle is a person. The Stoic gym does not turn people into weights to be lifted. It turns your habits into form to be cleaned up. You cannot change another mind on command. You can decide to meet that mind with the best version of your role. If a colleague loves speed more than accuracy, your drill is to speak in numbers she respects, and to bring one example rather than 3 claims. If a client loves drama more than decisions, your drill is to frame choices so clearly that drama loses its audience. If a friend is late, your drill is to spend the waiting on an inventory that will save you minutes later. Lists aligned, notes ready, tone set. You are not indulging bad behavior. You are conserving your energy for movements that change the day for the better. Sometimes the obstacle is the body. The Stoics do not wave slogans at tissue. Fatigue is not cowardice. Pain is not treason. Illness is not a referendum on virtue. The gym here is gentler. The movement is to ask what care is up to you, to give it without sarcasm, and to match the task to the hour you actually have. The drill might be shorter work sets with clean rests, or clearer requests for help from people who can spare it, or a refusal to pay for speed with errors that will cost everyone more tomorrow. The exercise is to keep your promises to yourself about sleep and food and breath, not as a performance, but as maintenance for a tool you share with the world. A useful sentence lives at the doorway of every obstacle. This too was assigned. It does not mean you wish for trouble. It means that when trouble stands in front of you, you accept the assignment to practice the matching virtue. A child interrupts, patience is assigned. A mistake appears, honesty is assigned. A rumor circulates, justice is assigned. A plan fails, courage is assigned. The assignment gives the moment shape. It is easier to carry a box with corners than a sack with no form. You give the hour corners, and then you lift. Bring in the reserve clause, so exercises do not become superstitions. I will do this, if nothing prevents. I will keep this tone, if nothing prevents. If prevention arrives, the training adjusts. The Stoic is not attached to method. The Stoic is attached to the aim and to the virtues needed to reach it. If the river rises, the plan becomes bridge building. If the bridge washes out, the plan becomes ferry. If the ferry is full, the plan becomes waiting well while preparing the next best move. The obstacle selects the lesson. You select the scale and the pace so that the lesson can be learned without breaking the tool. Use time and distance as equipment. Many obstacles lose size when seen from the balcony called the view from above. Step back in mind and make the map larger. A delay that filled the whole screen becomes one small mark among many. A stung pride becomes a label you can peel off and replace with the name of the task. Other obstacles lose heat when placed on the workbench of tomorrow. Tell them, I will think about you at 9. Write one line so 9 will know what to do. Then let the night do its quiet work of sorting. Postponement is not avoidance when it carries a promise and a plan. Turn the day's frictions into a scoreboard that favors growth over gossip. The metric is not, did everything go my way? The metric is, when things did not go my way, did I remember my way? Did I find a handle that did not cut the hand? Did I do the next small fitting act that helps a shared room continue? Did I keep my word where it mattered more than winning a schedule? Did I leave behind one improvement that will spare a stranger 10 minutes next week? If the answer is sometimes and often and once more than yesterday, you are training well. End with a gentleness that keeps training from becoming vanity. You will not lift perfectly every time. Some hours will be spent under a weight you should have set down sooner. The Stoic answer is not self-blame. It is repair and recommitment. Say the apology cleanly. Sweep the shavings. Hang the tool where the next hand will expect it. Make one small change to the process so the same corner does not catch your foot twice. Then write the day in the book as a decent session at a quiet gym and close the book. If sleep is close, picture the gym emptying. Mats rolled, benches wiped, a single lamp over a clean floor. On a peg by the door hangs tomorrow's sign. Practice continues, calmly, with whatever arrives. Breathe in as if you are laying that sign flat, so it will not curl. Breathe out as if you are turning the key in a lock that does not need to be forced. The world will bring you more material. You will bring it more steadiness. What stands in the way will become the way, not by magic, but by your choice to use every hour for the virtue it calls for. Now let the room go dark. Training resumes in the morning. The Stoics do not deny feeling. They watch how it begins. First there is an impression, like a knock at the door. Then a quick flash in the body, the way a curtain moves when air changes. After that comes a judgment, often so swift you mistake it for the feeling itself. The judgment writes a sentence in the mind. This is terrible. This is wonderful. This must not happen. This must happen now. The Stoics place their gentle hand on that moment of writing. They do not tear the page. They slow the pen. An emotion, in their language, is mostly this judgment put into motion. Change the judgment. and the feeling changes its weight and its aim. They make a small distinction that helps. The first stir in the body is not a fault. A pulse that lifts when a door slams is only the body reporting that air moved. A sting in the chest when a friend forgets your name is only the body reporting a gap between hope and event. They call these first stirrings pre-emotions. They arrive without permission and pass if not fed. What follows is up to you. If you sign a harsh sentence under that stirring, the feeling grows teeth. If you sign a fair sentence, the feeling learns how to stand without biting. The space between the stir and the sentence is where practice lives. A calm sequence replaces the hurried one. Name the appearance without embroidery. Say, "This is an invoice I did not expect," or "This is a tone I do not enjoy," or "This is silence where I hoped for a reply." Let the body tell its story while you hold the pen. Now ask the Stoic questions in one slow breath. What exactly is up to me? Which virtue would improve the next minute? What is the smallest action that helps the shared room continue? This is not a trick for pushing feeling away. It is a way of teaching feeling to stand beside reason rather than in front of it. When the feeling is anger, they suggest a measured survey. Anger is often a fast claim about injury and intention. Slow it. Separate harm from insult. Separate fact from the story about motives. If harm is real, choose the just act in a tone that can be received. If harm is not real or not large, practice temperance and let air move through the house. Count to a number that feels a little silly. Drink water. Read what you plan to send, but read it aloud with the voice you would use if a child were asleep in the next room. If the sentence wakes the child, it is not the right sentence. When the feeling is fear, they recommend inventory. Fear writes the word forever on small things. Replace forever with when and how. When would this cost arrive? How large is it in coin, in time, in reputation, in fatigue? What can be done by me, today, with tools already on the bench? Most fears shrink when they are counted. Those that remain large can be honored without ruling the day. Courage, for the Stoics, is not the refusal to feel fear. It is the refusal to let fear choose the standard of action. You bow to the weather by setting sails that fit it, not by scolding the sky. When the feeling is grief, they do not offer slogans. They offer alignment. Love is consent to loss written in advance. If you grant a person their full reality, you grant that time owns them as much as you do. Grief, then, is not foolishness. It is the right tax on value. The Stoic practice is to let grief be clean. Do not add blame to it. Do not add theater to it. Do not add a vow against future love. Visit the memory with fairness. Thank the hour for what it held. Do the present duty with slow hands. In time, the pain becomes a lens through which gratitude can still see. They also name a family of good feelings that require judgment as well. Joy that follows a just act. Wish that aims at what is truly good in others. Caution that keeps a promise safe from haste. These are not accidents. They are results of sentences written with care. You can increase their number by practicing the view from above, by keeping the reserve clause near your work, by ending the day with a gentle audit that praises what deserves praise. A mind trained to write fair sentences will feel fair feelings more often, not because the world has changed shape, but because the mind has stopped stepping on its own tools. Small rituals steady the hand. Keep a phrase ready for the first rise of heat. Only in appearance, and I will examine it. Keep a gesture ready for the first rush of praise. If nothing prevents, I will enjoy this and still do my job. Keep a habit for the first pinch of envy. Good for them. Now back to my bench. Keep a plan for the first taste of despair. Step once, then once again, then drink water, then ask for a smaller task that still points at the aim. The body learns these patterns the way the hand learns a knot. Repetition makes the movement available when thought is slow. Because life is crowded, use place and time as helpers. If a room loads you with noise, move to a quieter corner so the sentence you write does not have to shout to hear itself. If a choice feels urgent and ugly, grant it a night unless harm will follow the delay. Sleep is not escape. It is a workshop where rough edges get filed by processes you do not have to supervise. Leave a short note for morning so you can rejoin the work without confusion. You are not avoiding feeling. You are giving reason a desk with light on it. In company, treat other people's feelings as you wish yours to be treated. Do not argue with their first stirrings. Offer them the same tools. Facts first, fair naming, the next small act that keeps the room kind. Where a correction is needed, place it on a table between you rather than on a chest. Speak to the judgment rather than to the person. Ask for a sentence you can both agree to sign. If you cannot agree today, agree on the time when you will look again. Many storms pass when the clock is allowed to help. As night draws close, let one feeling at a time come forward, the way a teacher calls names. Give it a seat. Ask what sentence you wrote under it. If the sentence was true, thank yourself and sleep. If the sentence was hurried, write the fair one now, in small words, with the aim of being useful tomorrow. Fold the paper and leave it on the desk. Blow out the lamp in your chest the way you would lower a wick. The world will still have weather in the morning. You will still have a hand on the pen. The Stoics keep a small card on the desk with a short sentence on it. Remember that you will die. They do not keep it there to frighten themselves. They keep it there the way a careful cook keeps a timer near the oven. Time is real. Heat is real. Attention is limited. The card does not shout. It does not argue. It only points at the clock and reminds the hand that is stirring the pot to choose what matters and to set the flame where it belongs. When you hear the phrase in a harsh voice, step closer and soften it. Memento mori, in a gentle room, means only this. You are a traveler with a ticket that will be collected. Spin the ride well. Begin with the kindest version of the thought. You are finite, and so is everything you love. That is not a flaw in the design. It is the design that makes value visible. If a view were guaranteed forever, you might never lift the curtain. Because the curtain will close someday, you lift it tonight. If a conversation could be repeated endlessly, you might postpone it until your calendar no longer has edges. Because calendars end, you lean your chair a little closer and listen while the other voice is still warm. The Stoics do not dwell on endings in order to grieve them in advance. They dwell on them to rescue the present from waste. When you remember that doors close, you hold them for others while they pass. When you remember that lamps go out, you turn the wick down before smoke stains the ceiling. The practice begins small and stays small. Choose one ordinary object and rehearse its leaving. A cup you like, a coat that fits, a tool that sits right in the hand. Say quietly, "Some morning this will not be here." Then use it well today. Do not hoard it. Do not ignore it. Fit it to its task and put it back with a touch that says thank you. Extend the same rehearsal to places. A corner table at a cafe that will someday change owners. A bend in a path that will someday be fenced for repairs. A view between two buildings that will someday hold a third. Say, "This too will go," and then see it properly now. Memento mori is not a sentence of gloom. It is a lens that turns habit into attention. Next, widen the circle to time itself. The Stoics ask you to imagine your day as a string with beads. Morning, noon, evening, night. The string is not endless. The beads must be chosen. Memento mori here becomes the art of saying yes to a few tasks that suit your role and no to the swarm that steals hours without feeding the hive. Return the emails that keep the shop open. Move the work that other hands need. Leave the polish for the afternoon that truly has room. When invitations arrive, use the reserve clause that finitude teaches. If nothing prevents, I will come. If something better for the common good prevents, I will send my goodwill and my apology. Death, held softly in mind, is the honest manager of calendars. It is not a scold. It is the friend who asks, "Is that really how you want to spend this bead?" Because the body is subject to time, memento mori becomes care rather than panic. You are not a machine to be driven without maintenance until a belt snaps. You are a tool on loan to a workshop that many hands share. Sleep is not laziness. It is the nightly service that keeps the edge true. Water is not a trick. It is the oil that prevents heat from ruining the bearing. Movement is not a performance. It is the quiet greasing of hinges so that doors do not groan and frames do not crack. Eat simply so the lamp burns clean. See daylight so the clock inside you keeps its hour. Visit the physician when a part complains in a language you do not speak. Memento mori here is a way of honoring the lender by returning the tool in decent condition for the next person who will use it after you. Finitude also restores manners to desire. The Stoics are not enemies of pleasure. They are enemies of the kind of wanting that breeds more wanting and leaves the cupboard emptier than it found it. Remembering the end helps you ask better questions of appetite. Do I want this? Or do I want the first 5 minutes this promises and the aftertaste it always brings? Do I want this? Or do I want the person I will have to become to keep it? Do I want this? Or do I want the time it will cost me to clean, store, worry over, and defend? Death is not speaking here to spoil the party. It is speaking to ask whether the party is the one you meant to attend. The answer can be yes. It is often no. Temperance becomes easier when you know that the table will clear and you would like the room to look kind when it does. Turn the thought to conflict and watch it loosen knots you do not need to tighten. Someone is ungracious. Someone forgets a promise. Someone cuts in the lane you are in. Memento Mori writes a short line on the windshield. This sends for both of us. It does not excuse wrong. It shrinks the theater. The person in the other car is temporary, just as you are. His heart has a date on the calendar you cannot see. Your own has one too. Is this the scene you want to carry to that date? Perhaps you still choose to correct. Do it in a tone that you would not be ashamed to have remembered. Perhaps you still must defend a boundary. Do it with the calm of someone who knows this is one fence in a field full of fences, and none of them are permanent. The Stoic aim is not to erase differences, but to keep differences from drafting you into roles you never agreed to play. Grief lives here, and the Stoics do not step around it. To love is to write a small permission in the margin. This, too, may be taken from me. When it is taken, sorrow is not a failure of philosophy. It is the proof that value was recognized. Memento Mori sits with grief and removes the extras that make grief crueler. Self-blame for not stopping the tide. Theatrics that try to bargain with what is not barter. Vows never to love again because loss hurts. The practice is to let the pain name itself without editing. To thank the part of life that was shared when thanks can be spoken. And to do the present duty at a gentler speed until the body stops shaking. To remember death beforehand is to give grief a chair in a room already arranged for honest guests. It cries, it rests, it leaves when it is ready, and you do not lock the door against future visitors who might bring joy. You can practice Memento Mori with a day-end ritual that does not bruise. Imagine that this were your last ordinary evening. Not the last of a storybook, only the last of a real Tuesday. What would you put in order? A sink cleared so morning finds a clean start. A short note to someone who should not have to guess what they mean to you. A small apology placed where it belongs so another mind can sleep. A password written in a book where a friend can find it without struggle. A desk wiped so the next hand, whether yours or someone else's, can begin without searching. None of this is morbid. All of this is hospitality to the future. The Stoics call it living in agreement with nature. Nature loves order that helps others move. Make friends with the last time exercise, which is gentler than it sounds. Walk as if this were the last time you will take this path in this season. You will walk again, but not like this. Touch a shoulder in passing and feel that this particular warmth will not repeat. Another will, but not this one. Taste the simple food and remember that appetites change. Doctors give advice, and tables shuffle. Last time turns the common into gift. It slows the hand that rushes. It adds, without scolding, a little ceremony to small acts. It teaches the eye to bow to the unrepeatable. Because memory is short and urgency is noisy, keep a physical token. A little stone in a pocket. A ring turned once each morning. A string tied to a key. When you feel the token, breathe one steady breath and do the next fitting thing as if it were the last chance to do it kindly. Sign the email without the extra sentence that would have stung. Place the tool where a stranger would look for it first. Let the car in not because it deserves it, but because generosity costs you only a few seconds and buys a quieter heart. If the token ever starts to feel theatrical, put it away for a week. This practice is not a costume. It is a reminder. Memento mori also frees work from the trap of endless polish. If you were immortal, you could afford to perfect everything and deliver nothing. Because you are not, you must ship. The Stoic craftsman asks, is this fit for use by real people in a real world? If yes, deliver. Leave a note for version 2. Spend the saved hours on duties that do not tolerate delay. Care for the living, attention to the present, repair that keeps the shared room safe. Death is a stern editor with a kind aim. Stop rewriting the preface and let the book be read while there are eyes to read it. Finally, bring the thought down to a bed and a breath. One day will be the last day you lie down. It is unlikely to be this one, but it will be someone. Let that promise make this lying down a little more deliberate. Set the phone farther away. Turn the wick down until the flame is small and kind. Place the glass where night hands can find it. Let the chest rise and fall without your supervision. If a worry asks to speak, give it one line and tell it that the office opens in the morning. If a gratitude knocks, open the door and let it sit by the window while you dim the room. You are not rehearsing death. You are practicing the art of ending a day so that beginning the next one will feel like a continuation rather than a rescue. If you are still with me, let us place the card back on the desk and agree on its tone. It is not a threat. It is a guide. You will end, therefore choose. You will leave, therefore give. You will close your hands, therefore open them now while they can still carry. When the hour comes, the Stoics hope to hand the mask and the props back to the manager without complaint and with the stage tidy. Between now and then, Memento Mori invites you to keep a clean bench, a gentle voice, a fair share of the work, and a heart that does not waste its beats on quarrels with weather. The rest belongs to the night. Sleep is the modest rehearsal of letting go and waking again. Let it take you. The day is a workshop. At closing time, a good shopkeeper does not give a speech. He tidies the bench, tallies the slips, returns the tools, lowers the lamp, and locks the door that keeps the weather out. The Stoic evening audit is exactly that. It is not a trial. It is not a hunt for guilt. It is housekeeping that lets tomorrow begin without searching. You sit, or lie as you are, and go once more across the floor of the day with slow eyes and a kind hand. Begin with 3 plain lines. First line, what was up to me that I did? Write facts, not adjectives. I answered the hard note without heat. I returned the call I did not feel like returning. I kept the promise about time. Second line, what was up to me that I missed? Again, facts. I sent a sharp sentence. I let delay turn into drama. I forgot the other person's role. Third line, what small thing will I do differently next time? Keep each plan smaller than your pride would prefer. Draft, then send. Ask for a slower meeting. Put the tool back where a stranger would look first. This is the whole frame. Act, miss, adjust. No speeches. No names you would not say to a child. If the mind wants more structure, divide the page into 4 quiet boxes and let the virtues sit in their corners. Under wisdom, list one place you named the facts before the adjectives, and one place you did not. Under courage, one cost you accepted without noise, and one step you postponed because fear said forever when it meant for an hour. Under justice, one person you treated as a partner rather than a prop, and one place you can widen the circle tomorrow. Under temperance, one boundary that preserved your peace, and one excess you can trim without becoming grim. Close the book after a handful of lines. Excellence is a practice, not a performance. Now take one knot from the day and lay it on the bench. Do not pull, sort. Name the appearance that arrived. Name the judgment you wrote under it. Name the act you chose. Breathe once. Ask if a gentler judgment would have produced a cleaner act. If yes, write the better sentence in 10 words or fewer and leave it where morning can find it. If no, praise yourself and move on. The aim is not to rewrite history. The aim is to make the next version of this same hour easier for the hands that will hold it, yours or someone else's. Give the body a line of its own. The body is a colleague with honest reports. I asked too much from the afternoon without water. I treated tiredness as treason. I moved enough to keep the hinges quiet. Set 2 small cares for tomorrow that do not require heroics. Light and air before messages. Food that behaves. A walk that returns me to the bench calmer than I left. Bodies forgive quickly when asked kindly. They forgive slowly when scolded. Add the reserve clause to the whole review so sleep can come without bargaining. Say, I will do these small plans if nothing prevents. That phrase keeps the door from arguing with the corridor. It does not weaken resolve, it frees it. If prevention comes, you will adjust rather than inventing a story about failure that the facts do not deserve. Let gratitude enter as a worker, not a guest of honor. Name 3 useful things that did not have to happen. A sentence arrived that made the task clearer. A stranger held a door just when your hands were full. A cloud moved and gave the room better light. Gratitude restores scale. It is not decoration. It keeps the mind from acting like a manager who only notices what breaks. If something is left undone, choose its handle for tomorrow so it stops knocking. Either schedule it on a real hour or formally dismiss it. Not this week. Not at all. Half promises are how minds stay awake. A clear yes or a clear no is a blanket. Make a brief reconciliation where one is owed. If you can still send a line that cleans a spill without waking the house, send it. If not, write the sentence you will send in the morning and put it where your thumb will find it first. Apologies travel best when they are short, factual, and paid for in the coin of changed behavior. Promise only what you are willing to practice. Turn once more to roles so value can be returned to its shelf. Today you were a listener, a partner, a clerk, a driver, a neighbor, perhaps a caregiver, perhaps a guest. Place each mask back on its hook. Thank it. Refuse to take any of them to bed. Tomorrow the stage manager will hand you new lines. Tonight your single role is sleeper. Give that role the conditions it needs. Dark that is dark. Cool that is cool. Screens that cannot speak from across the room. Dim the room the way a keeper turns down a wick. If noise remains inside, let the view from above make it small. Lift the ceiling to the height of the city. Lift the city to the shape of the coast. Lift the coast until lights are threads, and your worry is a pin you can move with 2 fingers. Put the pen on tomorrow's page. Close the book. If the thought of endings comes, as it often does at night, let memento mori sit kindly in the corner. Say, because this ends, I will rest now so that when it continues in the morning, I can be of use. This is not a dark sentence. It is a wise one. The shop does not stay open to prove it cares. It closes so it can care again. Finally, perform the smallest closing ritual and repeat it until the body learns it as a song. Glass of water within reach. Shoes placed where morning feet will expect them. A note folded with the first task. A line of thanks spoken aloud even if no one hears. Then breathe in as if a window were opening to clean air. Breathe out as if you were laying a cloth over a cooling loaf. The ledger is shut. The bench is clear. The lamp is low. The lock turns without force. The night will keep watch. We have walked, step by patient step, through a simple stoic day. We learned to see a world with a pattern and to fit our actions to its grain. We separated what is ours from what is not and put our hand on the hinge that actually moves. We stood in the breath between impression and assent and chose handles that do not cut. We set 4 quiet virtues like legs under a steady table. We wore our roles without stealing lines and gave them back without clinging. We rehearsed mornings lightly, met obstacles as exercises, named emotions as judgments, and held the last things softly so the present could be held well. Now the shop closes. You do not need to keep any of this in the fist. Stoicism is not weight for your pocket. It is furniture for your room. The furniture will remain where you put it when you wake. For this hour, your duty is simple. Let the chest rise and fall without your supervision. Let the mind set down the tools it carried too long. Let the corridor be the corridor, and the door be a door that is allowed to rest on its latch. If a thought knocks, give it a chair and tell it kindly that the office opens in the morning. If a gratitude knocks, let it sit by the window and fade with the stars. Breathe in. The sea is filling under a calm hull. Breathe out. The watch fire lowers itself to embers. You have done enough for today. The world is still here. The bench is clear. Sleep.